Before I get into the main topic of this video, I want to bring up the good news, everyone, that I seem to have solved the fucked up computer bullshit. Turned out to be way easier than it looked. And let me see. All I had to do was go into the mixer mode of volume and hit the microphone button, turn it all the way down, and apparently that made it work. Well, or if not, then I'm recording this video with no sound or low sound or some such bullshit, whatever. Okay, now we're going to talk about Star Trek's Exploration Paradox. At least that's what I call it. Okay, we're going to start back in 1989, I think it was, that was the year. Let's say 1989. I'm watching Star Trek, The Final Frontier, the fifth Star Trek movie. And in the movie, as you may or may not know, Spock's half-brother brainwashed the Enterprise crew into taking him to the center of the galaxy. And if I remember correctly, the only people who weren't affected were Kirk, Spock, and Bones. But anyway, in this movie, it seemed that it took the Enterprise A, the 23rd century Enterprise, a few days to get from Earth to the center of the galaxy. And according to current estimations, that's a distance of 30,000 light years. Then later on, I think a few months later, I saw the Next Gen episode, the Star Trek The Next Generation episode, where Q brought the Enterprise into Borg space. Now, they made all this reference about how long it would take to get to the nearest starbase. 2.2 years according to data. And Q sent them a total distance of 7,000 light years. So, in the 24th century, it takes a starship years to travel 7,000 light years. But in the 23rd century, they travel that distance in maybe a couple of days. I mean, like what? Okay, remember, the Earth is approximately 30,000 light years from the center of the galaxy. And let's say it took the Enterprise A week to get there. So, in 1 week, they travel 30,000 light years. Meanwhile, the more advanced, supposedly faster Enterprise D takes a minimum of 2 years to travel 7,000 light years, which is less distance than there is to the center of the galaxy. That doesn't make a lick of sense. So, when I realized that, I tried to figure out some kind of explanation for it. One explanation I came up with was maybe some of the crew of the Enterprise subconsciously remember what Nomad did or what the Kelvins did to accelerate the Enterprise beyond its normal maximum warp speed. And I'm thinking that doesn't make sense because if they did that, then that means that specialists at Starfleet would have studied that modification and then maybe incorporated it into other starships, and then you'd have starships traveling vast distances. And by the 24th century, a spaceship could travel from one end of the galaxy to another in less than a day, something like that. So yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Then another possible explanation would be that in the Star Trek universe, Earth is much closer to the center of the galaxy than it is in real life. But I'm going to disagree with that claim because I've seen at least 2 Next Gen episodes where they show a kind of a map of the Federation, or at least the Federation and neighboring civilizations, spacefaring civilizations. And the Federation seemed to be in the approximate area that real-life astronomers say that Earth is located in the galaxy. 30,000 light years from the galactic center. So that doesn't work either. But the most credible possible explanation, is maybe the Enterprise A went through a wormhole. But when you watch the movie, you don't see them going to a wormhole. Just regular warp drive all the way from Earth to the center of the galaxy. Some might say, well, they went through the wormhole off screen. Yeah, that's a possibility, but I mean, something as major as getting to the center of the galaxy should have the whole wormhole scene shown, but they didn't have that. So therefore, the only explanation for this is that the Star Trek writers goofed. For years, I was under the assumption that Star Trek writers do basic science, basic astronomy, basic other technical matters and such. But then I saw some show that explained that most Star Trek writers aren't that versed in science, so they have to get technical consultants to make their science sound more credible. But apparently they didn't bother to figure out how long it would take a 23rd century starship to reach the center of a galaxy. That's, like I said before, it would take decades. And this also brings me back to the whole problem of scientific inaccuracy in science fiction. Star Trek, from what I've seen, was very good with scientific accuracy in many regards. Even warp drive is scientifically accurate, despite the claim that faster light travel is impossible. But they messed this up horribly with the whole center of the galaxy thing. I wonder if someone has an even better explanation for how a 23rd century starship can travel 30,000 light years in a few days, while a 24th century starship would take decades to travel that same distance. Remember Star Trek Voyager? Oh, the Voyager was sent 70,000 light years from Federation space, and at maximum warp speed it would take 70 years for the Voyager to get back to the Alpha Quadrant. What the frack? We need more accuracy in science fiction. And all those dumbasses who hate scientific accuracy can go frack themselves, for real. So I guess we're stuck with the exploration paradox, and the problem is, what are we going to do? How do we reconcile this? This is a kind of cognitive dissonance I can't handle. But then they keep saying, most people are going to keep saying, it's just a science fiction show, it's not real. Doesn't matter. I want consistency. I want realism in science fiction, because, as I said before, the more accurate the science fiction is, the more likely the events of the science fiction are to happen in real life. But if you have a 23rd century starship that can travel 30,000 light years in a week, and a 24th century starship that would take decades to travel that same distance, that's not accurate, and it's not sensible, and that couldn't happen in real life. Of course, if Star Trek were real, it would take the Enterprise A decades to travel 30,000 light years. It would also take the Enterprise D decades, but fewer decades because it's supposed to be a faster, more advanced ship. What's the other thing I want to bring up? I guess I can't think of anything else. And I cannot emphasize enough how stupid the exploration paradox is. They should have figured that out. Of course, if the Star Trek writers wanted to make this realistic, they could have just not have the Enterprise go to the center of the galaxy, just in some mysterious region in the Alpha Quadrant. That would have made a lot of sense. But they decided to mess up, and I'm pissed off because of it. So, see you later, Ralph Nader.